Hey guys, it's Micah from Micah Doodles here. Hey, just wanted to kind of walk you through. I know that a lot of you have been seeing a lot of my artwork, and on my iPad Pro, I'm working in a program called Procreate. So when I use my Apple Pencil here, so I'm going to kind of walk you through kind of what I do, how it works out, a little bit of my settings to kind of help you guys out. Some people have been asking me things like that, so I'm going to kind of walk you through this and show you. So the first thing that we do is we're going to start out here. We're going to go ahead and open up a new one, a new canvas. This is 4,000 by 3,000. So Procreate does not have a resolution. You can adjust that. So I think it's standard 72 dpi. So I really go the highest resolution that I can with this. Then I go into my pen settings. So the pen settings that I'm using here are basically the streamline allows it to follow along with your pen. So I basically use this type of brush. So what I'm going to do, if you wanted that, to get more details, you can email me on that. But I'm going to kind of show you. So what I do is I open up my settings here first, and as you see, I'm drawing on here like that. Double tap to erase. But what I like to do is I like to take my original settings here and then drop my opacity down to about 30% so I can get a lighter line like this. Okay. So then that actually helps me when I'm going in here to start drawing these vehicles in like I want, because then I'm dealing with a lighter. It just helps me not to have such a dark color, and then I kind of figure out exactly what I'm looking at when I'm designing. So this one I don't have a vehicle in front of me because I've got my phone here, but what I'm going to do right now is just I'm going to ask for about 30 seconds. Is there a vehicle that you guys want to see me draw? I'll kind of throw that out there right now. If not, I'm just going to go ahead and just show you a tutorial on something, but I'm going to throw that out for about 30 seconds. If there's a vehicle that you'd like to see me draw real quick, let me know. Again, this is all off the top of my head, so if not, I'm going to default back to a truck. So that's kind of where we are. But hey guys, thanks for popping on here. So anyway, I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the tool settings as well. The brush tool settings as well. You double click on that. You're able to get adjust sizes. Over here is where you adjust for your brush sizes, the thickness, how big you want it, and how small you want it. Understand? This is where you adjust your opacity. Super simple. So let's say I've got a maximum right now opacity, whereas I'll drop this down. My brush size is very small. It's all pressure sensitive. That's as big as it's going to get. So just kind of showing you that. When I'm going in and I'm sketching stuff in, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out all the way and then begin to throw my sketches on top of here. So we're going to run from that. So and shoot that. So Mike, you said a 56 Ford. I'm going to run with a truck on that. So let's go ahead, and I don't have a picture, but I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of modification on this, okay? So what I like to do is when I'm working typically within a range of something, I kind of like to figure out, I've got this parameter I'm going to work with. I want to keep my vehicle within this type of shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out, and I'm going to basically, I like to start out first of all with the headlights on here. Kind of get that shape going here. I'm going to drop this down and do a little bit of modification on here for this 56 Ford. Since I don't have one in front of me, I'm trying to go off of a reference of what one looks like without having it here. Okay. We're going to do this. Okay. And then what I like to do is come back in here with my eraser tool and erase in certain things. We're going to go ahead and modify that a little bit like that. So going back to my line art tool, again, I can adjust the size of it based upon that. I've already got my opacity set basically over here. It's real simple. Click on the N here and you can adjust your opacity. So I always like to start out with a light opacity on this. As I'm beginning to draw it in, I'm going to start then kind of sketching in kind of how I want to do this truck. And again, it's a little bit larger than it needs to be, and that's okay, because what I'll do is I'll end up scaling this down a little bit, and I'm going to actually, I might throw some Dagmars on there. I'm not sure. I always liked putting those on there, but again, we're just running through. So you can see it's actually larger than it should be. So I'm going to go back in here now and scale this down. Now, if you can see down, let me see if we can see this down here. Down here, I've got different types of freeforms. Freeform allows me to scale it accordingly. Uniform allows me to scale it without any distortion. Distortion then allows me to tweak it just a little bit to get a little bit of that flavor that I want to get on that vehicle. So this is what I use a lot when I'm doing my stuff. As soon as I get that, I'm going to scale this down a little bit smaller so that I can begin to work with it and continue on with where we left off, okay? So we're going to run this truck. The wheels are here. I'm going to go ahead and throw out another set of fenders back here like this. Roll this like that. This is just helping me to decide what's going on with this thing. Okay. Then we're going to run with our hood, or our roof, an A pillar up here like this. Run that over. Drop that down. Like that. Again, it's really rough, but again, you guys can probably see what I'm doing. I'm throwing out my sketch first, okay? I go back to my eraser tool if I want to erase any lines. I can adjust the size of that eraser if I want to make it large or small. If I want to go in here and start adding little, eraser details in here. There's all sorts of fun things you can do. But right now I just want to set this thing up so I'm about where I'm at, so I can put this car together, this truck together. All right. So being like that, okay, then figure out how I'm going to do my mirror. I'll probably throw a mirror in here like this and run this off like that. There we go. So right now it's pretty roughed out how I kind of like it, and that's I like dropping the opacity on that because you guys can definitely see how that looks. Personally, I really like to work with a lighter opacity rather than going super thick in my dark lines. You can see how it just kind of is a little intimidating that way. When I drop it down this way, it allows me to then work on this stuff in a little bit. It just feels like it's more manageable for me. So again, bring my eraser tool up here, adjust some of my erasing out some of these lines so that I can kind of see what I'm working with here. The other thought was I might decide to put in a really cool engine, but again, maybe not. We'll see. Let's see which one I have. Let's change this thing. When I'm doing the details inside here. There we go. Hey guys, appreciate you guys watching. You have any questions, ask me those. I'm going to go ahead and try. I got this camera kind of above my head, so I want to peek in whenever I can and do my best to kind of answer those questions for you, okay? I can put some eyes in here by just erasing out some of the color in here. Now, Procreate's a pretty cool program. It's only $10. You can't beat that. And so on an iPad Pro with an iPad pencil, so my iPad Pro, I got it used for about $350. You buy your iPad pencil for about $100. You buy Procreate for $10, and man, you've got a little side business going on for less than $500. So if you like to doodle, if your kids like to doodle, I give this to my son all the time, and he likes to doodle. So anytime that he get him off the computer and say, hey, go draw something. That's what I'm going to do. So now you guys can kind of see what's taking place here so far, how this is coming together. So as soon as I get it to where I want it, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll think, do I need to distort it? Do I need to scale it a little bit? This is where I come in and tweak it a little bit. If I want to add some tweaks, you can do all sorts of kind of fun things to add stuff to the vehicle to make it crazy, fat, short. Again, it's my own artwork, so I can do that. If it wasn't my own artwork, then obviously I'm not going to be doing that. But Procreate's got a really cool feature on there that allows it to do that. So for the most part, this is pretty close, I think, to how I want to have it. I think it's pretty close. I want it to be leaning forward a little bit. Yeah, probably something like that. Maybe I'll shrink this down a little bit here and drop this down just a little bit like that, and then lean it forward. Yeah, something like that. Okay. So we're good. So now that I've got basically the line art and this thing's drawn, now I'm going to go on to a second layer. This is going to be where I'm going to have a finished line layer. So I'm going to create another layer over here, and I'm going to then add, this is going to be 100% opaque over the top of that. So I'm going to drop my background layer that I previously had, and I'm going to drop that down just so I can barely see it. You guys can probably still see that on the screen. Okay, so I'm going back into my top layer here. Into my pen tool, my brush setting, I use the script pen, which is it's a different size angled brush. Streamline, basically, it just allows it allows you to track it. So what I'm going to show you here, this real quick. If I'm going to draw with a pen like this, versus if I come in here and do a streamline. Streamline's going to keep it really kind of, see that? How it follows along where it kind of grabs the pen and makes your lines a little bit clearer. So with that, I'm not going to worry so much about that. So I'm going to keep my streamline at about 58%, which because I want to have freedoms in my stroke. So what I'm going to do now is I've got this here. I'm going to zoom in here and I'm going to begin to show you guys kind of what I do on this. I'm going to set up my brush for about 7 or 8%, and then this allows me to go in and then start doing the details inside. This is where this is what I call my finish line process. So I'm going to go in here and start drawing in this stuff and kind of adding in these details like this. In these solid lines, you can drag colors over there and fill them real quick like that, which is a pretty cool feature. Again, you can see on here I've got thick and thin lines, all pressure sensitive. So depending on kind of what I want to do with that. So I do like to be able to have the option when I'm working on this stuff to to press hard, to press soft, to kind of get different thicknesses of lines. I think that just adds a lot to the character of how this project comes together when I'm working on something like this. So if I'm doing a cartoon, so we're going to go ahead and add in the mouth of this thing like this. And I'm going to fill this in black. Whoops. So you can see it didn't fill it in because there's a space in there. So that's why it didn't work. So what I'm going to do now is I've kind of got this thing drawn in. I'm just going to start filling in all the details to it. This is where I like to, I can move my pen around, or move my tablet around, begin to adjust as necessary. And again, I'm going back to my eraser tool because if I've got too close, I can always erase out some of that black. Throw some extra white lines in there to kind of add some detail, like that, just to kind of have some fun with it this way. All right, so I'm going to put the other light in here like this. And I'm going to put the There we go. Now, guys, this is real. I mean, I don't have a vehicle in front of me, so I'm just, I'm being kind of, I know it's not exactly as it should be, but at least it's going to give you an idea of kind of how I do my drawings. Why I bounce around a bit when I do my drawings? What do you mean by that? You mean draw all over the place, or just help me out there, Mike? What do you mean? So I'm going to put in my I don't know if I'm going to add that in or not. We'll see. Okay. All right. So I'm here right now, drawing this part in. I'm going to probably end up changing some things here. I want to follow my line that I use for my line that I'm putting everything on. I like to put everything pretty much on a flat surface, which means that everything is going to be kind of stuck on the ground like that. Shrunk down, squished down. That's just basically how I like to do it. So I'm going to drop that to 9% again. And then let's jump in here with the hood and have a little bit of fun with this. So kind of what I'm doing is I just kind of start fleshing this stuff out a little bit, kind of figuring out what works on it. I'm not really happy with this light, so that's okay. All right. Oh yeah, I kind of jump. That's just true. It's just my style. I kind of jump all over the place. Sometimes I'm in an area. It just depends kind of depends where I am, and where I'm at in these things. So then I like to basically put in my tires. Let's do this. Okay, and then I'm going to put some shadow on here, so I'm going to go ahead and follow the roundness of these tires and put them in like that. We can kind of see how that's kind of coming together. And again, I'll go back in here and erase it to get exactly like I want it to be. You can still see there's a lot of texture and a lot of character in these lines. These lines aren't completely straight all the time, which is okay. For me, I don't really mind because that's just my style. Some people are very meticulous on their line work. For me, not so much, just because I'm more in the process of trying to get the vehicle drawn up like I want it to in a reasonable amount of time. So everybody's got their own different ways that they do it. So. Okay, we're going to run this. We're going to run a truck like this. All right. So the hood, I actually squished it a little bit far forward. So I'm going to go ahead and move it in here and do a little bit of jerry-rigging on this thing. And I think what I might do is I might throw a little... maybe a cool little sun shield over the top. So there we go. Kind of see how that's all coming together. And I'll just add in, extra little pieces in there and whatnot. And then the fun thing with this is I can go back with my eraser tool, and when I draw lines over the other top of lines, I can go back and erase those, which makes it super, super easy. So, yes, Mike, normally what I do is I do have a picture in front of me. If I'm going to be working on a client's ride specifically, I, for the most part, will have the client's picture I will have the client's picture in front of me. That just helps me to be able to make sure that I've got a reference photo and I've drawn it all exactly as it should be. But for right now, just being on this tutorial and talking to you guys, I'm not so much concerned about that, just because I'm more interested in just kind of walking you through and kind of showing you what I do. All right, so we're just going to add a little bit of shadow in there like that. Maybe I'll add the back side of this, that thing like that. Okay. So now we're kind of moving on then to the drip rail. The drip rail, we're going to run that. Without being able to remember how that runs, I can't remember if it runs all the way down the back side like this. But we've got the regular window that runs like this, and then 3/4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw it in like this. Then I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to fill it in. Okay. Then I'm going to add a little bit of shadow texture on there as well, because we're going to have this door that's going to run like that. Okay? All right. So as we're kind of walking through here, there's a couple different things. I still have to add the what is it called? Rear view mirror or side view. Sorry. So I'm going to add that in here. Since it is going to be chrome. Now you can tell, obviously, because it's gone into this black, I'm going to begin to adjust it. So which is always nice is when I'm working on these things, anytime it goes in this area, I use my eraser tool as well to help in drawing and adding things. Like here's a prime example. I want to add some eyes in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add some eyes. I'm using my eraser tool rather than a white tool. Go back in here and add some eyes in here. There you go. Kind of see how that's kind of coming together like that. Then I'm going to go ahead and take the back side of the truck and just go crazy on this roof like that. So it's kind of fat. And then I'm going to zoom in here and maybe erase some things in here so it's a little bit cleaner to me. Cool, there you go. You can kind of see how it's all kind of coming together now. Now let's take it back here. Let's move to the back end. So how I'm going to do this truck is we're going to then roll this here, and then this is going to roll down like that because I'm now following the cab. So we've almost finished up the cab like that. And we'll put a door handle in here. A lot of times I'm going to zoom in when I'm working on stuff like that. I'll use the eraser tool as I'm zooming in to erase some of the areas. Say I've drawn over something. I'll do that like that. Same is true here. If I want to make sure that this line stands out, I'll do the same thing. I'll outline that. So then it makes that rear view mirror pop out, or that side view mirror pop out. Okay, kind of moving through. Now let's go ahead and jump in here to these fat fenders. So what I like to do when I'm doing fenders here, I like to make it very fat. And so what that means is, so you've got the, what is this thing here? The step right here, but then I want to make sure that when I'm throwing out fat fenders on here, I leave a little bit of an angle here like this. It's because I'm going to run and darken that up. There we go. Kind of that rolls over the top like this. Even putting a little lip on there helps sometimes. And then anywhere that I've gone too far, I can always go back in there and erase. And then just kind of try to mimic what I had before. I'm going to put another. And I'm going to go ahead and darken all this stuff up in here like this. Not super happy with this tire yet, but that's okay. I think what I want to do is I want to drop this line down here. This tire is a little bit too thick on the bottom, so I'm going to cut in here with my eraser tool. Fix my fender here as well. Throw the bumper on there like that. And then we'll throw a light back there as well. All right. right, let's go ahead and throw that rail over the top. Now again, since I don't have a vehicle here to look at, I'm just kind of showing you kind of what I would do if I had a vehicle and I was working on drawing it. So this being pretty close to, let's just say where we are done. Okay, I blacked it in. I've kind of seen adding here little thick and thin lines to help me as I go back in here. I'll probably do some darker shadow work in here. There we go. Let me thicken my brush up here so I can make these lines a little bit thicker here. There we go. So I'm kind of sinking this all in there. So now that I've got this thing basically drawn, I'm going to then go in and I'm going to go outline it with a thicker brush just to go around the edges to make this thing pop out. Okay. Sorry for going upside down, but sometimes it's helpful for me to draw down rather than up. And there we have it, guys. Okay, I'm going to go through and erase some of these little boogers that are floating around here. Got some shadow work in here as well. All right. So now comes the point where we're moving on next to this drawing. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I'm going to erase the background layer, so I don't need any more of that stuff floating around back there. That's all taken care of. I'm going to then add a layer just below my line art layer, which is right here. So that layer, I'm just going to add a layer real simply. And then just as we learned how to do on our opacity, I'm going to go into that layer, which is layer 3. I'm going to click on it. On the end, which is then going to drop my opacity to about 30%. Okay, 29% is fine. Then I'm going to go and just like I did before with my black lines, I'm going to do the same thing. But now that the opacity has been dropped, what's going to happen is it's just going to allow me then to draw lines like this. See that? Which then allows me to make a really cool, just kind of basically start filling it in, drawing it in, and figuring out where you want your shadows to be. And you're drawing it all in from there. So I like to follow the body lines of this. And we'll have the shadow coming on from here as well. Maybe even drop this down like that, just to kind of give a cool little effect. All right, so I've got my light source coming from the left this way. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that all my shadows are on this side. I've got hot spots that are hitting on top, but everything below that maybe a little bit in here, but not a whole lot. So you can kind of see how that's coming together. Hey, Bobby, what's up, buddy? how you guys will know that if you message me right now, you'll be able to see your message appear. All right, so I'm just kind of darkening this up here, just to kind of show you what I'm working on. Then I'm going to drop my line weight down to, or my line edge to about 10, and then it's going to help me to come back in here and fine tune some of this stuff up. I like to do a double line, sometimes over the top, just to give a little bit of more texture on there. It makes it look kind of cool. So I like to do that. We're going to bring the shadow down here as well. So sorry guys, I keep zooming in and out. That's just how I work. There we go. Come up here and so when you see it from a distance, it looks like everything's okay. You zoom in, you start seeing a little bit of character on there, and that's kind of what I'm shooting for. So we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of that shadow in here as well. Let shadow work. Now I didn't even add a, oops. Now what I also like on the Sketchbook Pro is, or not Sketchbook Pro, sorry, I use Sketchbook Pro when I'm doing my illustrations downstairs. So now that I've kind of got everything laid in there with my shadows, I can then go back in with my eraser tool rather than my line tool where I'm drawing these lines. I'm going to go in with my eraser tool and start erasing some of the lines that I've done in here, which is almost like I'm drawing with a white pencil. If you can imagine that, I'm drawing almost like with a white pencil on top of everything. And this is just going to allow me to add little bits of highlights and details within the artwork itself, just to kind of allow it to stand out a little bit more. And this is what some artists do when they're doing airbrush and they're adding highlights and glows. They kind of fade things, but since I'm not using an airbrush, I'm using all just line art tool. This is what I'm doing to kind of help you out. So again, I'm just going to go back and I'm going to emphasize some of these lines and then go back in and kind of erase them. There we go. Again, you can just go to town all day on this. Depends on how much detail you want to do, but just this being a tutorial for you guys and just kind of show you, I'm just going to go through and hit a couple ones. But if I'm doing a drawing like this for a client, I'm going to be a little bit more specific. But I'll always give them a proof sketch first and foremost before I do anything else. That way they know what they're getting. After they get their proof sketch, as soon as that's approved, then we'll just basically start moving forward with the artwork. And then that's when I then go on either Monday night on Cartoons Magazine, where I will draw live on there. So if you don't know that, you guys need to go follow Cartoons Magazine, Automotive Humor. Follow that because every Monday night I draw live on there from 6 p.m. Mountain Time or 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And I typically take one of my drawings that I've done either for a client, and I'm going to draw that one in. I'm going to do a full color drawing on that. So that's kind of one of the bonus things I like to do for my clients, because I've kind of worked it out where I can get a drawing done in about 2 hours or less. And so that's kind of the key thing, because you don't want to be spending a whole lot of time drawing, especially because not everybody's just going to kind of stay tuned in. So you kind of got to keep their attention. So, all right, this is where I'm at right now. You can kind of see how that turned out. Then really, basically, that's pretty much it. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in to my line art tool here where my black lines are, and I'm going to drop my brush size, my eraser size down. to about 9%. Same as my pencil size. And then I'm going to go in here and just erase out some lines in here because I want to have the fender following around there like this. And I may add a little bit of tread on there or something like that. It's kind of always fun to do. There you go. I'm not sure what I want to do, if I want to do something here with a vertical grill or not. It really just depends. It kind of just depends how things are looking. I don't know. Again, real simple, undo, double tap. If you don't like it, just chuck it. That's always a nice thing about digital drawing is you can always undo it. And that's kind of really one of the reasons why I switched over from traditional to digital, because especially when you start having to do proofs for clients, proof sketches, what makes it hard is a lot of times you're drawing it over and over and over again to get it just the way you want it to be, which is good and all. But man, I felt like it was just taking so much time having to redraw everything, and then get the right angle, and then as soon as you do it, you put it on the whiteboard again, then redraw it again. So for me, digitally, man, this just saves so much time because then I can, select something, adjust it right there, copy it, paste it, and then I'm all done. So, hey Matt, what's up, buddy? So, whoops. So now we've got basically there. That's pretty much what I do. And then just to kind of throw something together, let me throw on there real quick. Be on the right layer here. Let's just go back to this layer right here. Let's go back to my shadow layer. I'm going to throw a little circle sun over the top like this. All right. And I'm going to then connect it. I'll just start filling. I'm going to fill it in this way. I was going to splash it, but I put it all on the same layer, so I'm not going to worry about it. There we go. And again, I mean, I don't know everything about Sketchbook. I just know what works for me. And so there's probably a whole bunch of things for those of you guys who might be more attuned to it. Man, give me a call. Let me know if I'm missing something, if I could have done a shortcut, because I'd really appreciate that. So then I'm going to go through with my eraser tool, and I'm going to kind of erase around this vehicle just to kind of give it a cool little effect, just so it outlines. And there we go. So it's kind of super, super simple, but if you guys have any questions with Sketchbook, you want to get some brushes that I've got, or you want to use those, let me know. I can turn you on to everything that I have that I use if you're looking for certain settings that might help you out. So again, guys, that's pretty much it for my black and white. I'm not going to do a color version here because I've probably spent way too long on this already. Don't want to bore you guys in that. So let me sign my name to here, and then we'll be done. And there we go, guys. So that is it. That's the finished piece. Let me disconnect it from here, and I'll walk you through what I've got. All right, so that's the actual finished piece, all done up, ready to go. Kind of walked you through start to finish, just how I would draw a thing. And here's one cool thing, guys, before we're done. I'm going to go up here. This up here is an awesome thing. You'll dig this. I'm going to video it, and I'm going to do export time-lapse video. I'm going to do a time-lapse replay. Check this out. It's going to do a replay of everything that I've just drawn in. Kind of shows you what you were doing. . And then what I'm going to do when I'm all finished with that is I'm going to take that and I'm going to change that to a 30-second time-lapse video. It gives me the option of doing that. And then really what it does is just creates a little file now for you that you can attach to your drawing when you're done, just as a time-lapse video, which is super, super cool. So this program's only $10. I'm not making nothing on this, obviously. I'm just selling it because I'm not even selling it. I'm just explaining it because I really like it. So that's the way it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go up here, and I'm just going to show export time-lapse video. Full length or 30 seconds. 30 seconds is what I'm going to prefer. It's gonna do that. I'll save that and save it to my files, and we'll be all done. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a JPEG, and also I'm going to have a and I'll just save my video here, and then I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to share, save it as a JPEG, export it, done, boom. Save it to my computer. I'm all finished. All right, guys, I will post this on the bottom to show you guys what that looks like when I'm all done. So, hey, guys, you guys have a great day. God bless.